Hi everyone, it's Kylie and I'm back again with another eHow Crochet chart tutorial. So this is the second of our following charts tutorials, and today we're going to be looking at the next few rows. Okay, so on row 3 we've chained 3. Now in the next stitch, in this treble here, so the treble for the first treble from the previous row, we're going to do 2. Then the next stitch we're going to do 1. Then 2, then 1, then 2, then 1, and we're going to follow that pattern all the way around and end on 2 because this counts as a 1. So we've got 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, and then that's the last one that we're going to join on to. Okay, so we've followed the pattern, and now we just have to crochet that next row, which is row 3. So we're going to start with the first stitch, which is this one here, and we're doing 2 into this one. It's 2-1 pattern all the way around. So we yarn over and pull up a loop, through 2, through 2. There's the first one. There's the next one. In the next stitch, we're just going to do 1 treble stitch. So yarn over into the stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and through 2, yarn over and through 2. This yarn really doesn't want to roll around properly. It's making it very difficult. Okay, here we go. I've chucked it off the table now, so it's just going to roll around the floor. Okay, so we've got 2 and we've got 1, so the next stitch we want 2. So we're going to go into the stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and through 2, yarn over and through 2, into the stitch one more time, through 2, through 2. Next one is just going to have 1 treble. Next one is going to have 2. There's the first, and there's the second, and we're just going to follow that pattern all the way around. 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. I'm going to stop here and join you again at the beginning of, or at the end of the row. At the end of this row, so we've just got 1 stitch to go, and that's going to be 2 trebles. Last stitch, so yarn over into the stitch, pull up a loop, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2, and then we're going to grab that stitch marker again, keep that stitch open while we hold that there, pop the hook through that stitch and slip stitch him to finish off that row. There we go. Now I know my next row is going to start with a chain 3, so I'm going to chain 2, pop that stitch marker in again. I just go around the neck of that stitch, make sure you grab both bits. Oh, that's better. And finish off that 3rd chain, so that's holding that stitch open for us so we can find him at the end of the row. And let's look at the next. That's our foundation chain, our first, our second and our 3rd rows. And this is the last row I'll share with you in this tutorial, and we'll come back another time to finish off the beginning parts of this work. So if we go back to the beginning now, we have chained and stitched our first 3 rows. 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1 row. This is a nice row, this one, row 4. We've done our chain 3. Okay, we slip stitch, we did our chain 3. We're going to go 1 stitch here, so 1 treble, chain 2, 2 trebles, chain 2, 2 trebles, chain 2. We're 2 trebles and chain 2 all the way around, but it's also important to look at the previous row and see which stitches we're stitching into, because you'll notice we're going to stitch into the first one, we're going to chain 2, but our next treble skips a stitch. We're not stitching into this one at all, we're stitching here. So we're stitching, stitching, skipping, stitching, stitching, skipping. So the pattern for this row is treble, skip 1, chain 2, treble, treble. Okay, or you could say treble, chain 2, skip 1, treble. Then we're going to do treble, chain 2, skip 1, treble. So work out a pattern that works for you, and that's what we're going to work towards. So we yarn over, and we are going to go into this first stitch. It's this one over here. So we're going to go in here with a treble, we're going to chain 2, 1, 2, we're going to skip the next stitch and we're trebling into this stitch here. And we're backing that up with another treble in the next. Then we're going to chain 2, we're going to skip this stitch and we're going to treble into the next. And treble into the next. And so on all the way around the row. So you're going to get 2 trebles, a skip stitch, 2 trebles, a skip stitch, but on this edge of the row we're actually chaining 2 where those skip stitches are. So it's treble, treble, chain 2, skip 1, treble, treble, chain 2, skip 1, and so on. Okay, I'll do a couple more with you. So we've got 2 chain, skip 1, treble goes in the next, treble in the next, chain 2, skip 1, treble in the next, treble in the next, chain 2, skip 1, treble in the next, treble in the next, and so on around the row. Chain 2, skip 1, treble in the next, treble in the next. I'll meet you back here at the end of the row. I'm back round at the end of the row, and I just thought I'd pop back up with the pattern briefly to show you that in the last stitch we're not actually going to join, there's no stitch in there. So it's a chain 2 and then a slip stitch on. So I have just finished. Don't worry too much if you're curling because the next row will sort that out for you. I've just done my 2 trebles, so I need to do a chain 2, and then I'm skipping 1, and then I'm going to slip stitch straight into that 3rd chain of my little foundation chain at the start of the row. There we go, into there, slip stitch, so it's yarn over and pull it through, and pull that yarn through the loop on the hook as well. And there's my chain, chain 2, pop my stitch marker, ready for my next row. Okay, and chain 1. So that's our first few rows of this chart. Looking back at the chart, the next row is really, really easy. So row 5 has us chaining 3, which we've just done, and then it's literally a treble in every stitch. We don't want to go into here, so we just do 2 in the chain space. So treble into this, 2 in the chain space, treble, treble, 2 into the chain space, treble, treble, 2 into the chain space, treble, treble, 2 trebles into the chain space, all the way around. You can count up all your stitches, but the nice thing about charts is you don't have to know how many stitches, you just have to make sure you get round following the pattern. So keep it nice and simple, take it slow, and there's your 5th row. Thanks for joining me. I hope you've learned something today, and I'll see you again next time. Bye for now.